An authorization.
I insist.
Don't even think about it.
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of Digital Fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. Today's deck is an oldie but goodie. It's one of my favorite decks that I've been brewing over the last however many sets. And we've got some cool upgrades here that I'm super stoked about sharing with you guys. Before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to my patrons over at patreon.com/quarantinecapricorn. That's Yuck Fuzi, Squirrel, Noah Vincent, and Brittany at the Brew Crew Elite tier. And then, of course, our forever CPU savior, Terrence Rohrbach. Thank you guys so much. This deck is called The Persistence. And like I said, this is an upgrade to our Monoblack, Splash Grixis, 5-color, oil, proliferate, synergy, insanity, shenanigans deck. This was one of my favorite decks. It was called Black Oil. And I absolutely loved this deck when I first brewed it. And we get some really cool upgrades now. And the deck's even more powerful than it used to be. And it's a ton of fun to play. It's getting a bunch of wins on the ladder, which I'm pretty stoked about. So before we break down the deck, make sure you like, subscribe. Leave me a comment down below if you've played this deck before or if you've watched the older versions. Is there a card you think we should be using in this deck that I haven't considered? Because this is like the third iteration of this deck, and I've been trying a lot of new cool things with it, and I'm really interested to see if anyone else out there has an idea about what maybe we could use to spice up a deck like this moving forward. But other than that, I do stream every day, Monday through Friday on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantinecapricorn, because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. Let's break down this deck. We are about to hit 2,500 subs. We have been growing so fast, and that's all because of you guys. I'm so grateful. Keep smashing that like button. Keep bringing in new friends to subscribe. Thank you so much. Let's do it. Alright, so this deck is built on top of the bones of one of my favorite decks I've brewed in the last year or so. That's Black Gold. Now, the idea behind the deck originally was we want to use a bunch of oil counter synergies, along with proliferation, along with planeswalkers. But there's a lot of one-offs in this deck and ways to tutor for them, and it's just a ton of control. It's very tap-out control oriented, and it's one of my favorite brews. I'm going to start at the bottom of the curve and work my way up, but we'll talk about the new cards at the end. So we've got just one Churning Reservoir here. If we get this down early, this can start putting oil counters on some of our other permanents that care about oil counters, or just extra oil counters on creatures. And there is a little bit of silver lining there, and if like a creature of ours dies with an oil counter on it, we could pay 2 and tap this to make a 1/1 token. We can also do that if we're just shuffling oil counters around, taking oil counters off of things to put them on other things, stuff like that. Anytime we take an oil counter off something, we can make a token as well, and we can put those tokens to good use in this deck, but we never really want to ever see 2 of these. It can sometimes be a dead card if we don't have ways to utilize the synergies, so we're happy to include one, we're happy to see the first one, but we don't ever want to be in a position where instead of drawing something that's really important for the deck, we draw a second copy. So we're going to stick to just one of these. In our removal slot, we have 4 Drown in Ichor as a 2-drop, because it's going to be able to kill almost anything except for like a Sheoldred, but it will also proliferate, and everything in this deck is going to get value off of that proliferation, which brings me to Tablet of Completion. This was one of my favorite cards in Phyrexia All Will Be One, and basically you tap it to put an oil counter on it. Once it has 2, you can tap it as a mana rock, which is awesome. Once it has 5, you can just pay 1 mana and tap it to draw a card. So in the early game, it helps us get to 5 mana on turn 4, so that we can play a 5-drop, which is sometimes relevant. But also, once we get up to enough oil counters on this, it's just drawing us cards every single turn, almost like a Phyrexian Arena, except it's not costing us life to do it. We only have to pay the 1 mana, which is way more on rate than than most card draw abilities. So this is super good, but also all of those oil counters that are building up can be used for other things, and that brings us to the Filigree Sylex. 2 mana for a legendary artifact. Again, you can tap this to put an oil counter on it. You don't have to pay any mana to do that. But this has 2 functions here. You can sacrifice it to destroy all permanents that have the cost of however many oil counters are on it, or you can tap and remove 10 oil counters from among permanents you control total and sacrifice the Sylex and deal 10 damage to any target. So this is a cool, like, sweeper, oil counter payoff, and finisher all in one card. If we get this early, a lot of times we can be careful about waiting until the end of their turn to add a counter on it. If we're up against aggro, we can get it to 2 and just sweep their board of all their 2-drops, or against certain decks that have multiple 3-drops down, we can get to 3 and sweep the 3-drops. But against token decks, it's really good too, because we can just slam it, sack it right away, and destroy all tokens, which is pretty sick. But if it just sits there collecting oil counters every turn, eventually we get to enough oil counters, we just remove 10 from all of our cards, and deal 10 damage to our opponent's dome and kill them outright. If we're absolutely desperate, we can do that damage to a creature or a planeswalker instead. If we need to survive another turn, if the 10 damage isn't going to be lethal, we can kill a Sheoldred with it, whatever. Card is super versatile, just has to be used in just the right deck, and this is the right deck for it. Moving on to the 3-drop slot, we have 4 Urabrasks Forged. Now this is one of our big oil counter payoffs. 3 mana for an artifact. It's going to make an X1 Phyrexian Horror with trample and haste to every turn. X is the number of oil counters on it, so every turn you're swinging in for more and more damage. This card isn't new. You guys know how this works. It is a clock. It will win the game. It will win the game on its own if it's not dealt with. But in addition to that, it provides a whole bunch of synergy for a lot of other things that the deck's doing. The Drown and Ichor is going to proliferate it, so you're attacking with bigger creatures than you otherwise would be. It's going to be building up oil counters that you could potentially remove with the Sylex to do the finishing blow. It's creating a token every turn that we can sacrifice to some of the effects that we're going to talk about later. We've also got just 1 Liliana, 1 Kaito Shizuki, and 1 Ob Nixilis, because all 3 of these 3-drop planeswalkers are really good in this deck. They help establish control, or draw us cards, or just put a clock on our opponent, and all of them are big targets that our opponent has to deal with, or eventually they'll lose the game. With Ob Nixilis in particular here, we can sacrifice a really big Urabrask's Forge token to just make a huge second copy of Ob Nixilis, and sometimes win the game outright that way, which is pretty amazing. Moving on to our 4-drop slots, we have 4 Drag to the Bottom, and this is the reason this is a 5-color deck. It's mono black, it splashes Grixis, but it's a 5-color deck in that it uses 4 Ziatora's Proving Grounds, 4 Xander's Lounge, and 4 Raffine's Tower in order to have all 5 basic land types so that Drag to the Bottom can get maximum effect. It's very common for this to hit for the full -6/-6, but even if we just get it to -5/-5, it can kill a Sheoldred alongside most of everything else that's next to the Sheoldred, and that's what really matters. We've also got 1 Invasion of Innistrad. This is 4 mana flash speed, comes down, gives something -13/-13. This is a way to deal with a big threat. It's instant speed, so we could deal with a manland or something like that. We can kill something with indestructible because it's -13/-13. Very versatile, and then it gives us this invasion that we can then attack with our Urabrask's Forge token, or some of our other creature tokens that we can create with, like Kaito or Ob Nixilis or some of the other cards we'll get to. And if we get it flipped, we just get a whole bunch of tokens. And we're able to exile cards and make more tokens and just get a ton of value that way. And the reason we're running 1 of these is because we're running a complement of tutors, which I'll get to in just a moment. We've also got, for the same reason, 1 of our new cards here, Rankle's Prank. This is 4 mana for a sorcery, choose 1 or more, each player discards 2 cards, each player loses 4 life, each player sacrifices 2 creatures. We're in mostly creatureless control deck. Sometimes we'll have some token creatures, but for the most part, we can pick that each player sacrifices 2 creatures, and it's basically just like a double removal spell. We just get to nuke two of their dudes. If they're playing a mid-range deck and all of their dudes are kind of bigger and they're not playing with like a go wide strategy, that hurts a lot. But also being able to make the clock a lot smaller by making them lose 4 life, and then the discard can be super good if we got out a Liliana early, or if we just were playing against another control deck. This deck is a tap-out control deck, so we're emptying our hand. We're putting all these planeswalkers and these permanents onto the field that can continue to gain value every turn. So once we get to the point where our hand is empty, Rankle's Prank, just like Liliana's Uptick, can just start making the opponent discard stuff without us really losing anything, which is really great. 1 copy again because we have ways to tutor for it, which I'll get to in a minute. In a similar fashion, we have 1 Sorin the Mirthless because it's just a ton of value. We've got 1 Kaito, which in this deck is super, super good. It can create a 2/2 drone with Death Touch. It can draw a card for 0 loyalty, or it can uptick to make something not attack or block. But in this deck in particular, Kaito's really good because we can make Forge tokens, swing with them, and then return the Forge token to our hand, which it's going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter, we're not losing anything, to get a second activation on the Kaito, which is awesome. If we don't have the Forge, there's still ways to get this value out of Kaito. We have other ways of making tokens in the deck, and sometimes it's not a big deal to lose those tokens. But that also brings us to our 5-drop slot, and another way to abuse Kaito here is Sheoldred. Sheoldred is automatic 2 for 1 value. You slam it, you get a 4/5 menace creature, they have to sack something. So again, it complements the tap-out control strategy. We're mostly creatureless control because it makes almost all of their creature removal dead cards, which I love. Anytime they draw creature removal, it's like they didn't draw for the turn against this deck for the most part. But we did slip in this 1 Sheoldred just because it's a ton of value, and it does work with a lot of what the deck's trying to do. And if she sticks around, we can pay the mana, flip her into the True Scriptures, and start getting an insane amount of value. We've got 2 Cruelty of Gix. This is one of our ways to tutor up our cards. So if we're against like aggro or mid-range, a lot of times we'll just have to find the right answer with Cruelty of Gix on Chapter 2, which might be a drag to the bottom. It might be an Invasion of Innistrad against, you know, a very problematic creature, or it might be the Rankle's Prank if we can get enough value out of the prank, or we can grab one of these planeswalkers. There's so much versatility of what we can grab. We can grab our 1 Sheoldred. These 2 Cruelty of Gix makes it so that all of our 1-drops feel like 3-drops, which is really important. And then we have all this extra value tacked on, where the Chapter 1 makes them discard something, Chapter 3 we can get a creature back. So just a ton of value. It's important to run at least 2 Cruelty of Gix, I feel, because against certain matchups, if you're going into the late game and it's all about outvaluing your opponent and just going over the top of them, if you Cruelty of Gix and use it to find a second Cruelty of Gix, a lot of the time that's so much value that your opponent can't handle it, and that will win the game for you. So I always feel like if you're going to play Cruelty of Gix, you should at least play 2 copies, and the 2 copies here allow us to treat all of our 1-drops kind of like they're or 1-ofs rather, kind of like there's 3 of them. We've also got 1 Vraska, perfect in this deck. It's a way to gain life, draw cards, proliferate, deal with opposing threats, and sometimes it can even be a win condition. It's just super valuable in this deck, good tutor target. And then that brings us to the rest of our new cards. We've already talked about the Rankle's Prank, which is a really good one-of that we can find with the Cruelty of Gix, but we've also got Beseech the Mirror, which is another way for us to tutor things up. And sometimes we can even tutor something up that we're not going to just play for free with the bargain. Maybe we just use this to find our Cruelty of Gix if we want to start the chain. If we're in the late game and it's all about outvaluing our opponent, and we know our stuff's not going to get countered, we can just Beseech the Mirror for Cruelty, wait until next turn, cast the Cruelty, find the other Cruelty, generate all the value, go over the top, and win the game that way. But a lot of times we're going to be using this to find 4-drops and putting them right into play. So we can obviously find our sweeper, drag to the bottom, and in that way it kind of feels like we have 5 drag to the bottoms on curve, which is really nice. We can find the Invasion of Innistrad and just play it right then and there. We can find the Rankle's Prank if the situation calls for it, or we can find one of these planeswalkers. all of them are a lot of value, and there's even some situations in which we might want to search for some of these things. If we've got 10 oil counters in play, we can just grab the Filigree Sylex, put it into play, and basically win, as long as they're at 10 or less life. So having that option available with Beseech is really good. I am sticking with just the one, because I think the numbers are really tricky in this deck, but just the one is great. It makes all of our one-offs feel like 4 ofs alongside the 2 Cruelty of Gix. And I'd rather have 2 Cruelty of Gix and 1 Beseech than go like 3 Beseeches, I think. Because, like I said, the Cruelty of Gix into Cruelty of Gix in the late game against certain decks that are very control-oriented is just... having that option available is so good. But having a Beseech the Mirror to go alongside it just helps the consistency of the deck, helps us tutor up our silver bullets that much more consistently, and it's a great inclusion. I could see going up a little bit more on these in another version down the line, but for now we're going to stick with the one, and it's just going to add that little bit more consistency and ability to find whatever answer we need into the deck that's already able to kind of do that. We've also got 4 Virtue of Persistence. Now this is mainly another 2-drop removal spell, so I should be slotting it over here. Most of the time we're just target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn, we gain 2 life. Amazing removal against aggro, which is a lot of time what we need to last against in the early game to survive and get our wins. Sometimes aggro can be a little bit tricky in the early game for this deck, but once we establish control, it's very hard for aggro to come back. Virtue of Persistence gives that breathing room where we can kill anything. We can even kill like a Feldon without triggering it and giving our opponents any card advantage, which is awesome. But then we also gain that 2 life to buffer our life. It's almost like gaining a turn. It's almost like taking a free extra turn against aggro because we get so much off of this card, dealing with their threat and gaining the life to buffer our life total. But then, if this card is still around, sitting around in exile as the Virtue itself, and we get to the late game, which this deck specializes in just dragging out the game, dealing with everything our opponent puts on the board, then we could just play the Virtue of Persistence for 7 mana and just start taking everything out of our opponent's graveyard. And if we have a Virtue of Persistence in play, maybe we use one of these tutor effects, Beseech the Mirror or Cruelty of Gix, and maybe we grab our 1 Sheoldred, because if they kill it, we can just keep bringing it back with Virtue of Persistence. So it's nice to have this way to tutor up our 1 value creature if we happen to have the Virtue of Persistence in play and we're able to take advantage of it. So this can be a game-winning bomb all by itself, as long as we survive long enough to play it against the right deck. And this deck specializes in surviving long enough to play whatever it needs to. So I think it is the perfect card for this, and we're running 4 of them. I think it's amazing. But another thing to take into account is Beseech the Mirror's bargain allows us to sacrifice tokens. So like Urabrask's Forge tokens, the Ob Nixilis token, the Kaito token. There's all these little ways of making tokens, Churning Reservoir in this deck. And that kind of circles back around to like some of the synergies we have in here, like Beseech the Mirror, where we can bargain in a deck that on the surface doesn't seem like it's a bargain deck, you know? So that's why I'm kind of considering in the future maybe adding more of these, but it's hard to tear myself away from the 2 Cruelty of Gix package, and it's hard to find room for the other Beseeches alongside that, so it's going to be tricky, but at least as a starting point for exploring these new cards in this kind of a deck, I think we're at a really good spot. We got a bunch of wins with it. It's super fun to play. It's super controlling. We've got a Mycosynth Gardens in here, because if we happen to get it, we can copy our Forge, or we can copy our Tablet of Completion and get some value. We've got 3 Monumental Facade, so that we can just amp up our oil counter game, and a lot of times if you still have counters on your Monumental Facades and you proliferate, you can get exponential value as far as how many oil counters you have, which is nice. And then, like I said, we're running a full package of 12 Triomes for the drag to the bottoms, and this deck is so good at controlling, it doesn't mind having to throw a land into play tapped every now and then, as long as it's not too often, and I think 12 works just right here. We've got 4 Sulfurous Springs, 1 Underground River, just to make sure that we have those untapped lands on turn 2, And then we're filling out the rest with colored mana that we don't have to take pain for. So 2 Shipwreck Marsh, 1 Haunted Ridge. And that's the deck. It's a ton of fun. Kaito is still my favorite Planeswalker in Standard right now. I love him to pieces. And this deck absolutely gets it done. So let's check out the games. Alright, keep 7. This looks fine. Blazing Cuz. Blazing Cuz. Cuz why not? Cuz why not? You know? Alright, I think I would rather get set up for Forge next turn instead of playing the Sylex this turn. Which maybe was a mistake. He is kind of running out of cards though. See what we can do. Next turn, we can play Locthwain Scorn and Filigree Sylex if we want. Alright, he's racing a Forge. Can he? I mean, maybe. What you got, friend? We'll start with the Scorn. Fading Hope. That's kind of sick. Jam the Sylex. Plays the Mastermind. That's fine. Swing. We are close to just being able to wipe both Masterminds and potentially other 2-drops. Keep it at 0 in case he makes tokens we need to deal with. It's always a possibility. It's going to bring us to 10. We will swing. Hit for 3. We'll see if we can get him to use up a counterspell here instead of committing more flash creatures to the board. Oh, he's just gonna make us draw. That might actually be the game, guys. Congratulations, Avalan. Champion of Nectar. Avalan just got VIP. That's a lot of points, guys. That's a lot of points. As soon as I'm done with this game, we'll set you up, Avalan. That's what we do around here, Frost. Welcome to the family. You'll get there too eventually. Dream Thief, sure. Still think we're better off getting the Sylex to 2 counters. Could just kill the Dream Thief, but our Forge token's gonna trample right through it, so I don't think it really matters. See if we can land another one. Oh my god, he actually let it happen? This dude's a madman. This dude is an absolute madman. He has to cut down our token. Alright, we'll swing one. Avalan has embraced the coffee. But have you actually embraced the coffee in your life? Fairy Mastermind, sure. I mean, we've almost got lethal here, guys. With the Sylex. Hey, dog. Stop licking. I'm trying to stream here, and the pupper just keeps licking himself. He's a self-licker. Sure. All we need to do is hit for just a little bit of damage. Just a little bit. And then we win. 2, 3, 4. Oh god. I thought for sure he was going to counterspell it. Well, now I don't get to proliferate. That's sad. But we absolutely win. Kaboomba. Kaboomba, cuz. Mulligan. I think we'll try to keep this. But I play a lot of standard on Arena. That's where I can kind of get my fix, if that makes sense. Alright, Proving Ground. Maybe we'll get lucky with a land here. No dice. You know, I'm getting really stink-eyed at Arena's algorithm lately. What, I'm playing 5 colors, so now you have to match-make me against another deck that's playing 5 colors? I agree with that, Giggity. I know your name is Swiggity, but I'm just gonna call you Giggity. Like Family Guy. Giggity. Well, obviously, Avalan, where would it take place? Alright, we're gonna put a counter on the tablet. We will eventually be able to draw a lot of cards off of it, if it sticks. If our opponent's trying to out-control us, might not be able to. Pass turn. Leyline Binding. Which one are you hitting? Fine, fine. Binds our tablet. Annoying. My turn. Okay. An oil counter on, I guess. Alright, we'll play the Facade. He's clearly just holding up counter spells, right? We still gotta try. Alright. It actually resolved. Another Leyline Binding. Okie dokie. Well, that's it. If we can get the Sylex up to 6, we can get everything back. But we'll see. Another Tablet of Completion. Comes right down. Pass turn. Going big, baby. Counter. Counter. Land. Pass turn. Trying to get the tablet up to 5 so we can start drawing with it as quick as possible. Don't know what this dude is playing. Oh, he's playing a Lara. But he's missing green. And potentially white or black. Interesting. Very interesting. Could have beseeched the mirror, but I didn't want to sack anything. We'll just pass the turn. Next turn we can start drawing with the tablet. Urabrask's Forge. Let's see if we can land it. Ah, he used the fucking tablet. It does that every time, dude. It's so annoying. Alright, we're gonna sack Filigree Sylex. Get back all our stuff. Swing. Make a dude. And the turn. Seems pretty fine. You should be able to select priority. Like, always save tablet for last for mana. Flesh George. Flesh George. Counter on you. Play you. I guess we'll go like this. We'll pay 3 but gain 2. Let's draw a card. Play Sylex. Swing for 6. End the turn. We can actually smack them for 10. And bring them to 1 if we want. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we're going to add another one. Invasion of Alara. Oh, that sucks for you. He did the pain. He took the pain. Remove 10. Sylex kills you. Oh god. No Alara combo for you. Welcome to dog. Hey asshole, lay down. Why does it keep giving me all my pain lands? No. Gonna freaking wig out, man. Alright. Raffine's tower. Proving ground. This man be swinging. We're gonna have to jam a forge. Then we can do some Kaito shenanigans. Sure. That's fine. That's quack-tastic.
So this is my opponent. I'm not
No attacking for you.
too slow.
Swing. We'll bounce it.
Stay alert.
And
Something's up.
no attacking for you.
I'll handle this one.
Arcadio. Hello, Arcadio. KKKDO. Is he salt roping me? Well, there's another game I can't use for YouTube then. Opponents are so annoying. Oh, no, he's here. He's here. We're good. Sick, man. +1. No blocking or attacking with
I
that.
can run circles around you.
Would you like to trade, sir? You would like to trade, sir. That's unfortunate. Maybe I shouldn't have actually swung. That's okay. That's okay. I didn't expect that. I expected to be able to sack it to the bargain. But we'll just do it next turn.
Nice try, but I'm gonna win.
Tainted Adversary.
That should be enough of a distraction.
Alright. Let's swing with 2 again. Oof. Cut down. That's not good. That's not good. I guess we'll bargain and get rid of the not as good forge. And we'll probably... maybe we'll sweep. I don't know, I gotta see what our options are. We could sweep. Or we could invasion one of them. Or we could grab Sorin. I think we just drag. Does mean he'll be able to blitz the underdog and swing at Kaito. But Kaito has 4 loyalty, not 3, so it should be okay. It would take his whole turn, for the most part. Flesh Gorger. Am I okay with paying 3 life to target the Flesh Gorger? Yes, because he's just going to hit me for 3 if I don't. Yes.
Ha! Too slow.
Alright, so we'll swing for 6. And we'll get to bounce one of them. He's probably going to cut down the 1/1. That's hilarious. Alright, so he goes to 14. We'll bounce it.
Let's press
And then we'll make some board presence.
Phyrexia has minions, but I have friends.
Seems reasonable. Underdog can't kill Kaito, at least not by itself. Underdog. Put a counter on the tablet. This is getting real dangerous.
That should be enough of a distraction.
Smash. Alright, it's gonna block one of them. Alright. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Alright, so we'll drain 2 right now and hit for 6. We'll bounce this guy.
Take it easy. I've got this.
We could draw a card, but I think because he's got the underdogs coming in,
real tech can do.
we just gotta make the dude. The dude can take the hit and drain for 2 when it dies. I think we've pretty much got the game next turn. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Alright, this is keepable. We'll go Tablet of Completion on 2, I think. It does mean we won't be able to play the Forge on 3. So we could go Reservoir on 2 into Forge on 3. I think if we can race them with the Forge, that might be where we want to go. And I think that's what we're going to try. I'm gonna race them with the Forge. Once we hit a 4th land, we can drag to the bottom. So if he's going wide with creatures, which it seems like is most likely the goal, we can smash. Rot Priest. Oof, that's gonna add up quick. Figured since he played the chorus on 1, he didn't have the Rot Priest yet. But it doesn't look that way. We could kill the Rot Priest. Don't think that's what we want, though. Alright, so if we tablet, next turn we can put a counter on the tablet with the Reservoir and use it for our 4th mana to drag to the bottom. Problem is that Crawling Chorus is still gonna be coming at us. We could top deck a land and still do that, but Forge helps us race in that scenario. We'll play it safe. I feel you, Isaac. It has been rough for me as well. I actually missed yesterday's stream because I had so much shit dumped on me. I just, I've been dealing with a lot lately. So I definitely feel you. Yes, they do have a 5-turn clock. But that clock is about to go away. And we don't have to target the Rot Priest to do it, which is nice. I mean, they will still get a Might, so we're not out of the woods. Hello. Well, kids who make fun of other kids are lame. I went through that shit when I was young. That does nothing, my friend. But at least you got to give me a poison counter. Back to 5-turn clock, Nord. It's okay, though. I think we can deal with this. If he gets another Rot Priest online, that might be a problem. I think is tricky, but I think this is correct. Uptick, hit the Contaminator. No poison from you.
I can run circles around you.
He can attack it with the Might if he wants, but that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned, since we're at 5. Half health? We can come back from half health. We've easily done that against, like, mono red. Okay, sick. He is diverting to Kaito. Is he gonna pump it? That's fine. Goes to 1.
Bring it on.
And plays a Skrelv. I think we need another sweeper. Let your boy think. We could Sheoldred. It's a pretty good blocker. If we play the Forge, we get to double Kaito. Which honestly might be worth it. If he blocks, we can kill the Contaminator with the Virtue. Alright, we bounce it.
I've outsmarted you this time.
So then we go boom. And then we go boom. And then we go
I'll handle this one.
boom. Perfect. Perfect. Although I could have just upticked Kaito first before attacking. That's what I should have done. So that he didn't even have the option of blocking with the Bloated Contaminator. Alright, now we gotta kill both of these and then cast Sheoldred. Oh, and Sentry. We really need another sweeper. Play the land. Lots of options. Don't know if Sheoldred makes sense. Does Sheoldred make sense? Let's just Sheoldred, I guess. Jar Jar Binks gets rid of the Rot Priest. Interesting. So at this point, we probably go... I mean, we'll just hit the Contaminator, I guess. I could have made a drone instead. But if he top decks removal and kills Sheoldred,
Too slow.
being able to attack with the Contaminator is going to be really bad. I think this shores us up pretty well. Sure, Isaac. Just need you to remind me exactly where we left off and what the situation is. Because I don't remember. Sure, it'll all come back to me once you remind me. Fiol Thanos. Oh, we got a drag. It's gonna do -6, -6. 4, 5. We could just kill something with the Sheoldred. And then uptick, attack, uptick. Could do that. Lots of possibilities here. Lots of possibilities.
That should be enough of a distraction.
got plans. I got a plan. What's your plan got to do with me? Sheoldred goes back to our hand. Then we drag. Wipe the field without targeting. And I think that's it. And if we want, we could recast the Sheoldred. We'll make a drone.
Let's see you deal with this.
We'll end the turn and we'll draw a card off of Tablet here. Alrighty, Scoops. Pretty good win. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.